Close-up this morning, the ruckus at Rutgers. The main campus of New Jersey State University was the scene of a protest Tuesday night, a student sit-in that forced suspension of a Rutgers basketball game with highly ranked UMass. The sit-in was sparked by the remarks of President Francis Lawrence. In comments that surfaced a week ago, Lawrence, in effect, suggested that African Americans genetically lack the intelligence and potential of white students. That triggered a protest which began with a single student sit-in at midcourt just before the start of the second half. It grew to include a crowd so large that security guards gave up all thoughts of removing them and suspended the game instead. Wednesday saw a follow-up rally on campus with all involved calling for the resignation of President Francis Lawrence. Otis Raleigh is a member of the United Student Coalition at Rutgers. This morning he's at the Student Center in New Brunswick. Otis, good morning.
Good morning.
President Lawrence has claimed his insult was a slip of the tongue, a misunderstanding, a mistake he never intended. You don't buy that?
Actually, no. I think, first of all, it is important to realize that the protest began far beyond, before the protest that happened at the basketball game. And it happened even before Lawrence's statement, because the problems that are occurring here at Rutgers have been occurring before the statement was made.
Okay, let's see if we can keep this conversation to the statement. Will you allow that his words, which he says were actually spoken in defense of minority access to higher education, don't match his record and past actions, or do you think them one and the same?
I think they don't. His record kind of states that the institutionalized racism here at Rutgers University is in existence. And so I believe that statement, which was obviously and overtly racist, kind of it stays in line with his record. With his record,
because President Lawrence's 35-year history is that, some could argue, of a man who has crusaded for greater African-American representation in higher learning and has stressed de-emphasizing standardized tests as criteria for admission to colleges and universities. Doesn't that count for anything with you?
I think we have to look at his ideology. We have to see that it's very familiar of a paternalistic ideology that a lot of so-called liberals have. And you have to look at the fact, let's look at his record, the fact that he didn't divest from his stock that he had in South Africa because he said that they had sentimental value to him. We have to look at the fact that minority enrollment, at least enrollment of African Americans, have gone down at Rutgers University. When I came here, it was 11%, now it's 9%. We have to look at the fact that African Studies Department, as well as Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Caribbean Studies departments are underfunded, understaffed, and they're placed in very inaccessible areas at the university. If we're going to talk about his record, we should look at the whole scope and not just the nonsense that he's been feeding to the media.
In fairness to him, among the nation's predominantly white universities, Rutgers has been cited for graduating the second largest number of African Americans. Among its peers, it ranks fourth in total minority enrollment. For the full-time faculty, it is first among AAU public institutions. Those figures would seem to count for something. If President Lawrence continues to refuse to resign, what more are you and other students prepared to do?
Well, first of all, our protest and the reason why the United Student Coalition was formed was to foster some kind of dialogue. And it's a shame that we have to sit on basketball courts and interrupt games to have dialogue. But student voices just at this point is not heard. And the students have no power here at Rutgers University. So as soon as dialogue is opened up with Governor Whitman and with the Board of Governors, which has to be restructured because students don't have voting power on that Board of Governors. That Board of Governors is made up of corporations that have invested interest at Rutgers. Once that dialogue is opened up, then there will be no need for these protests.
All right. Otis Raleigh, thank you.
Thank you.
Joseph Potenza is the provost of Rutgers University. This morning he's also in New Brunswick. Mr. Potenza, good morning.
Good morning.
How do you respond to the students' primary charge that President Lawrence's remarks were a conscious articulation of a racist ideology?
Well, that's completely inconsistent with his record over the past 35 years. And the 4 or 5 years that I've known him, his views are just the opposite.
Nonetheless, nonetheless, Mr. Potenza, he said it.
Yes.
And the remarks were blatantly racist. At best, they were ignorant and insensitive. Is no kind of disciplinary action warranted?
Well, I don't know what should be the penalty for that. I do know that those comments are inconsistent with his deep convictions. He's apologized for the statement profusely. And what I'm hoping happens is that we now put that behind us and look to the future to see what we can do to improve relations here on the campus.
But don't the students have a point when they contend that Dr. Lawrence's remarks have made it impossible for him to adequately function as a legitimate spokesperson and figurehead for the state's largest and most ethnically diverse institution?
Well, I would, again, hope that we would not judge a 35-year career on 3 words that were said, I believe, inadvertently. I mean, my view is that they were conflated in a larger context, that he was thinking about 2 or 3 things at the time, and 2 ideas got crossed. I could explain it at length, but this is not the place for it.
Lawrence has said that no further disruptions will be appropriate. Does that mean you intend to crack down on any further demonstrations?
Well, we have a policy. I mean, our policy is dissent yes, disruption no. And the students are certainly free, and we encourage them to exercise their First Amendment rights. But we also believe that no one has the right to disrupt the legitimate function of the university and thereby impinge negatively on other people's rights.
All right. We'll stay tuned. Joseph Potenza, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. We're coming up on 7:18. We're back in just a moment. Take a break right here. This is Today on NBC.